Thank you for joining us today for this online lecture hosted by the National Personal Authority. I am Maeda, the Director of International Affairs Division. Before opening the session, the National Personal Authority of Japan would like to give you a brief introduction of how this session will be held. This lecture will be delivered in Japanese and English with simultaneous interpretation. The presentation materials are available in Japanese and English and can be downloaded from the button on the viewing page. Today's topic is utilization of digital tools by the Dutch government. The Netherlands has been a pioneer in the adoption of flexible work, such as teleworking, for several decades. I hear that the office environment has been revisited along with the differences in work styles. The Dutch government is also proactively utilizing digital tools to promote efficient ways of working and at the same time reinforcing efforts in securing digital talents. Today, we are joined by members of the Ministry of the Interior and Kingdom Relations. Ms. Mariolette Van As, the International Coordinator, Mr. Harry Feringa, the Senior Policy Advisor, and Mr. Marianne Den Boer, the Program Coordinator. The three speakers will take us through the personal system of the Dutch government's National Civil Service, which is one of the most advanced countries in the world in terms of flexible work, and also share how they are securing digital talents. All speakers are participating from either their home or office in the Netherlands. Today's lecture will last approximately 1 hour until 7:00 p.m. Japan time. Following the lecture, there will be time for questions and answers, and you may submit your questions using the Q&A form on the viewing page. The questions can be in both English or Japanese. I will be happy to take your questions as time permits, including questions we received in advance. Now, I would like to ask the speakers to start their presentation.
Well, good afternoon or evening to you all, and thank you, Satoko-san, for your kind introduction. I will share my presentation at this moment. So I will start with a quick overview of the administrative landscape in the Netherlands, after which I will zoom in on some developments and trends in the office organization, government personnel, and some specific for our HR policy. And that will set the contours of the two presentations afterwards from Marine and Harry. So the Netherlands is quite small in comparison to Japan. Government is organized at the central and the decentral level. The central level is comprised of approximately 1,600 organizations, and this excludes, for example, teachers or medical personnel. On the decentral level, we have, among others, municipalities, 342 of them, 12 provinces and 12 water authorities. 21 water authorities. The central organization of the government central organization is focused on the western part in The Hague. So our current cabinet came into office in January 2022 and is composed of 12 ministries with a total of 20 ministers and 9 state secretaries, all chosen at political level. And of those 12 ministries, the Ministry of Interior and Kingdom Relations is responsible for not only safeguarding democracy, being a government that citizens can trust, and creating a safe, secure, and sustainable living conditions for citizens, but it is also responsible for good and effective public governance. And circled on this page is the Directorate General for Digitalisation and Public Administration, which we belong to, and which has as its mission to work towards creating a modern government. This means that we strive to create an organization that is organized in a flexible manner so that it can adapt to changes of the environment and society. It has to operate as one government rather than the sum of individual ministries. It is a government that deploys technology in an effective way. And above all, it is a government that acts as a good employer and sets an example for other organizations in society. And because of this, this is all of key importance because we want to be a government that is of service to the citizens. So on this slide, you find some facts and figures of our government operations, and similar to the Japanese National Personnel Office, we have an annual report. The link is provided in this PowerPoint that you will receive. So feel free to dig a little bit deeper into our organization of government. But to start with some characteristics, because our time is short at the moment, I would like to show you what we face not only in public sector, but also in Dutch society as a whole. We have a tight labor market. In recent years, this has, among other things, resulted in the increase of our pension age, because life expectancy is higher and people get older. So between 2013 and now, the pension age has gone up from 65 to 67. And it was recently announced that it will increase a further step to 67 and 3 months by 2028. We also have a big aging population. And as you saw on the previous slide, also in government, we have a relatively old workforce, although we are also in the process of rejuvenating that. So by 2019, we had an average age of civil servants of 48 years of age. And at the moment, it is down to 46. Increasing flexible labor market is one of the other things. We have about 10 million people working in the Netherlands, and 4 out of 10 workers have some sort of flexible work relation. So that is either being self-employed or a non-fixed contract. And also it is very popular to work part-time. About 46% of the labor population works part-time in the Netherlands. And that is similar in central government. So to work towards these trends and to adapt to them, we have set up a strategic government-wide human resource policy. With the aim to be that attractive employer for both current and also future employees. So on the bottom of this page, you can find the link to this document. And the spear points of this are 7 + 1, we say, because 7 are really related to becoming that great employer. And the 8th one is also because we have to analyze and continue to analyze this. So that is the HR analytics. I will pick out 2 that are very important at the moment. That is to become an inclusive organization with diverse teams. That means that we focus on creating opportunities for those who have difficulties finding a job. And then you have to think of long-term unemployed, but also handicapped people. And we try to have teams that have a diverse composition, so it reflects society. And we also feel that having a diverse team helps people see a topic through various different eyes. The second thing we put is employee first, so that not the job, but the person is at the center. And this is one of the employment conditions laid down in also, for example, an a la carte employment condition. So zooming in on some other aspects. As of 2020, we have a new legal status for civil servants. That means that we still are public officials, but our contract is more similar to that of private sector. And it will also be easier in this way to make sure that the rules that work for society also work for government. To zoom in on that labor condition for central government, we have a 36-hour working week. Most employees choose to do that in 4 days, 4 days of 9 hours. And we also have a more changed relation between employer and employee, based more on openness and trust, which is very important in this hybrid work environment when your boss is not always there to see what you're doing 24/7. And hybrid is the norm, but Marine will dig into that a little bit deeper. So it's a very brief overview in 5 minutes, and I will pass the floor to Marine.
Thank you very much also from my side for inviting us to give an insight into the hybrid workplace within the Dutch government. I'll start sharing my presentation as well in a moment. I hope everybody is able to see it now. Like this, wonderful. And the last few years we have been working on that hybrid workplace, and we have a vision for 2027 to give also a direction on how we see the hybrid work environment within the Dutch government. And that should be, like Marilette already said, it's a basic point of working in the Dutch government. So it should also be a natural way of working in 2027. And we're going to work towards that goal in a few years. But I'd like to start with why we are doing this, because hybrid work is not just a goal in itself, but it's a mean to an end. We see that, especially in the Dutch society, changes go very fast, and also as a Dutch government, we aren't able to cope with all those challenges by ourselves. We have to cooperate and be in collaboration with a lot of other parties within society in order to deal with the challenges that we are facing as a society. So it's very important to be able to cooperate seamlessly across borders of organizations, and we have to support that in a very good way. Also, because of Corona, we have learned that we got to be very aware of the way we are working. All of a sudden in 2020, we had to go out of the office into our home offices, and we weren't allowed to work at the office anymore due to Corona. And we became very much aware of our habits and the way we work. And that gave us advantages and some disadvantages. And due to the lessons we have learned during that period, we have been able to make up the vision on 2027 and the ambition on 2027. So both in order to to help the challenges and cope with the challenges in society, as well as being aware on how we work, we have decided to be more in a hybrid situation, which also contributes to being a more attractive employer, especially in the tight labor market, which Marilette already mentioned in her presentation. What do we see as hybrid work, and what's our definition on hybrid work? It's the possibility, and it's the way of working in which you have the possibility to make conscious choices on how, when, where, and with whom you work. And it's very much important as you work in a team that you coordinate these choices with your team and your manager in order to be able to perform your work as a team. And based on several surveys, we have learned, and that's still a consistent image, that about 70 to 80% of our employees want to work approximately 50% of the time in the office. We have to take in account that the Dutch government has really diverse work processes. We have employees who work in the office, but also we have inspectors who work outside of the office who are on their way, but also, for example, prison guards who are working on the location. So the hybrid work environment also depends on the type of work process you have. But basically, you have to have the possibility to make those conscious choices. That's the definition we use in order to look at the hybrid work environment. If you look at the ambition, then, like I already said, hybrid work should be the natural way of working, depending on the type of work you are doing. And as the operations from the organization, we try to facilitate that in a good way, in which leadership and also personal leadership is very important for social cohesion. We have learned that social cohesion is a really important part of hybrid working. Belonging, are you belonging to your organization? And we facilitate it through training and digital and physical facilities. Harry will go in more in depth on the digital skills to be more exact, but we have different types of facilities in place or developing at the moment. And I'd like to go a little bit deeper into the physical working environment. For now, we have a brief overview of all the facilities we are developing at the moment, but in the middle you see a table with the team, both on screen and being physical in the room, and that's the basic. That's the base on which we help to facilitate the employees. The team is the most important, and we have to help them being able to work hybridly. To give you a small overview on the office environment, I'll give you a short tour in a few moments. But like the moderator already said, it's very important in the Netherlands to create an office space which helps employees to do the activities they need. For example, on the bottom middle of the screen, you see a meeting square within the office where you can meet informally, have good coffee, or have good amenities to meet colleagues or meet parties from outside the government on an informal way. On the more top level, due to things like Zoom or video call, there is a greater need for cubicles for employees to be able to make a video call being able to make that video call quietly. So we are positioning those cubicles within the office space, but also for more formal meetings, which go hybridly, even more with people both on screen and in the room. We need good office furniture, but also good digital facilities in screen, in camera, but also in sound. And for us, it's very important also that employees can work in all the different offices within the Dutch government. So if you work in, for example, Utrecht or Amsterdam, you don't really always need to be in The Hague if that's your base office, but you can also use a government office within Amsterdam or in Utrecht itself. So the hub structure will develop in the next few years as well. I will now shortly take you through a short tour of the office I'm in right now. Harry will take it over in the home office, because also the home office is really very important within the hybrid workplace. But for now, I'll give you a short overview of the office in The Hague, in which I am now. I hope you had a brief overview this way from the office at the moment. I'd like to end with saying that hybrid working is the basic point of working at the moment, expecting employees to work, depending on their work process, about 50% of the time in the office, but also from home. And in that case, I would like to end my part of the presentation and hand it over to Harry, and thank you very much for your attention.
Is the presentation visible for everyone? Perfect. I will quickly give a brief introduction of myself. I work for the Chief Information Office in the Netherlands. I'm in charge of the government-wide initiatives in the area of the attraction and the retention of IT personnel. And something personal, I like sports. I like football, tennis, golf, playing sports myself and to watch it as well. And today I will tell you something about my home office, the compensation for the home office, but also how we attract digital talent. Here you can see my home office. Normally I work 2 days at home and 2 days at the office. When I've got a lot of online meetings, it's more efficient for me to work at home as I don't have the travel time. My home office, as you can see, is part of the living room and consists of a chair, a desk, a laptop, a display, a keyboard and a mouse. And I will quickly show you that as well. So here you can see my screen, always coffee and water on my desk as well, the keyboard, my plant. And it's just part of the regular living room. And the next thing I want to say a few things about is the compensation for working at home, because everything you just saw at my home office is provided by the employer to be able to work from home. And the compensation for working from home is actually structured in 3 categories. We have the daily compensation for each day working at home. That is €2, 290 yen, if I say correctly, per day. And it doesn't matter how many hours you work from home that day. However, if you're going to the office for a part of your workday or use your public transport card or your car for work, then you're not entitled to the allowance. Why the daily compensation? Employees who work from home often incur extra costs, such as water, electricity, but also coffee and tea. And this way you're compensated for the extra expenses. Secondly, there's a compensation for the basics of a home office. And that's what you just saw in my own office. So an adjustable office chair, and the basic technology to work from home. And lastly, there's also a compensation for furnishing the home. So a civil servant in need of a home office is compensated or gifted €650 by the government every 5 years. And an additional €650 is also available using your gross income. If there are any questions about it, I will happily answer them during the Q&A. And I will now start with my own area of expertise. How does the Netherlands attract digital talent and realize up-to-date IT knowledge? And this is from the point of view from the central government. So the CIO office only initiates government-wide initiatives, whereas different government organizations each have their own initiatives to attract IT specialists and educate them. And I will first tell something about the current situation. So the situation in the Netherlands, we have a lot of restaurants and shops with the sign staff wanted. And in the newspapers, we read that there is a staff shortage in all sectors of the labor market. For IT, this is also the case. The problem in a nutshell, the demand for up-to-date IT knowledge and expertise is growing faster than the available supply. So the demand is increasing, more policies that have IT-related implications, growing requirements for IT-related services, but also higher expectations among the public and companies. On the other side, the available IT knowledge and expertise is under pressure. There's an aging population. Mariette already said that, but for IT, 30% retires within 10 years. So that's quite a challenge. There's an insufficient focus on continuous development of IT knowledge and a lack of sufficient IT knowledge. Here you can see the decline in the average number of applications per job between 2016 and 2022, from 18 to 4, which shows the great shortage of staff. And when you look at the average number of applicants per job in the different industries, you see IT is ranked number 1 with the lowest number of 2.5 number of applicants per job. And when you zoom in on the IT, you can even see that with something like IT infrastructure, only 1.3 people on average applied per job, which is based on the almost 5,500 vacancies in the IT of the Dutch government. And the top 3 challenges currently are: there's a focus on short-term solutions. So we outsource a lot of IT professionals in which we don't have the IT knowledge in-house. There's a scarcity of experienced professionals, and also the IT knowledge of other non-IT professionals is lacking. And I told you a lot about the situation, but luckily we also have solutions. So this slide gives an overview of the government-wide initiatives of the Netherlands for IT personnel to attract new IT personnel, to retain them, and also professionalize the education to build future-proof digital skills within the government. And today I will tell something more about the highlighted projects. And besides attracting new personnel, we make sure we continuously invest in knowledge and expertise of IT professionals to ensure they are always up to date, offer learning and career pathways to IT professionals, realize partnerships with educational institutions, explore options for a lifelong learning system, but also promote mobility among IT professionals to go from one government organizations to another. And to attract the IT personnel, one platform or website is used for the central government to search for jobs, in which it's possible to filter the IT expertise. So let's say you want a job in support, you can click on support and you see all the jobs that are open for you. And to enthuse IT professionals about the central government, we use an employer branding strategy, which consists of 5 categories. Creating content on platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. We use campaigns with different government organizations. We always share data, monthly reports, annual overviews, but we also have actual job events. And lastly, a contact strategy with email marketing focused on the target group. And we currently have a relatively old IT population, and we also need young IT talent. And for the graduates, we have the government-wide IT graduate program. And over a period of 2 years, the IT graduate carries out 3 assignments of 8 months at various government organizations. And here you work on current issues with social impact, you learn on the job, you build a network, and you get to know working for the national government. Trainees receive professional training in different IT areas, so you can also choose a track at the beginning of your trainee of a graduate program. So that's ICT, data, or cyber. And you directly apply this gained knowledge during your assignment. And some numbers. Since the program has started, more than 443 IT professionals have started. More than 80% moves on to a permanent position within the government. And currently, more than 250 graduates have progressed to permanent IT positions. And for the collaboration between the government and education institutions, e-partnership is established. And this aims to strengthen the knowledge on specific teams relevant to the government, increase the inflow of young IT talent, create an offering for retraining and training of existing employees. And since e-partnership started in the spring of 2020, more than 400 student assignments have been carried out or are in progress. Besides that, we also want to improve the IT knowledge of other non-IT professionals, and therefore radio has been established. This is the Central Government Academy for Digitalisation and Computerization. Please don't ask me to repeat that. Appropriate knowledge about IT is needed at all levels of the national government in policy, implementation, legislation, enforcement, and supervision. And that's the task radio stands for. Radio delivers e-learnings, micro-learnings, toolkits, podcasts, webinars, you can name it. But also campaigns such as the Month of the Digital Hygiene, whereas every employee is asked to think how to cope with the information being used on a daily basis. Is the information saved correctly, etc. And based on the ECF framework, that's the European Competence Framework, a Dutch competence framework for IT professionals has been set up and consists of 61 unique IT roles. And due to the translation, the Dutch abbreviation is wrong, unfortunately, but QUIF delivers the following. Individual knowledge development based on the 61 unique IT roles, more insights about inflow and outflow, more insights about outsourced professionals, and the 61 unique IT roles also make it possible to filter the vacancies on the central government website. And very quickly about creating content, the branding strategy. We create content to target hard to find IT specialisms. So then we're talking about development and testing, security, architecture and infrastructure, information policy and strategy, data analysts, but also information management. And we create content using social media platforms of the central government on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, but also creating content with a podcast on Spotify. So everywhere where an IT guy or girl is online, we try to target them. And the last example of the employer branding strategy to target IT professionals is that we launched a game for them that provides several challenges that could occur during a day of an IT professional within the government. And the idea is to launch a new edition about every 6 months, in which the challenges in every edition are based on a different government organization. And this was very briefly my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation, government. And we have received many questions, so we would like to go into Q&A. Marietta-san's presentation, you talked about the workers working 4 days a week. So you mentioned that there are a lot of people working 4 days a week. How do you secure that they are able to work the full working hours? So for the the clerk work, are there any issues in the operation because people only work 4 days a week?
Okay, continuous operation indeed is something you have to be very careful about. When we work 4 days a week, for example, everything I do in those 4 days, the files I write, the documents I write, I mean, the topics I interact on with my colleagues are, on the one hand, you need a very good digital backbone that is imminent, that is necessary in order to work 4 days a week. So, for example, my files, if I work on a document, then I put them not in a personal folder, but I put them in a folder where my team mates can access. So it allows them to see things that when I'm not there. On the other hand, but that's a personal choice and not an obligation for my employer. If there's a very pressing matter, because, for example, my minister needs something, then they are able to send me a WhatsApp message or to send me a call, to call me. So that helps. For example, when you have functions where you work part-time, so less than 36 hours a week, then there is always a moment of transfer. So that means that you call the person who takes over the other half of your job and discuss with them.
Thank you very much. So the Dutch government, it seems that you work as a team so that you can support each other. And I think that would be the general way of working in Holland.
Definitely, you need to be part of that multidisciplinary team. And I also urge my colleagues to pitch in. It's a little bit difficult because of the delay in speaking sometimes. So my apologies if there's a silence for a little while before we answer.
Marjolein, I can add to your answer also about the 4-day week in the Netherlands. We see a lot of benefits about the 4-day week. So we see the employee stress levels have dropped, burnout rates fell. There's an improvement in work-life balance, and the sick days also plummeted. So yeah, it's less days of working, but we see that the efficiency is almost the same, if not better. And people are more happier about their job. So that's a good thing, I think. And each person can, in agreement with the manager, choose which 4 days are used to work. And we do it together.
Exactly, and that is something that is key in this hybrid working in general. So not only whether you work 4 days or 5 days a week, but also whether you work at home or elsewhere, as Marine also mentioned, because it is not only the choice between working in an office or in your home office. It can also be, for example, that I take 2 hours to have a meeting with a colleague while we are walking outside of the office. Or it can be that I am visiting my mother, for example, and I use a few hours of my day to work from her home because we have the digital tools to do that. So the amount of flexibility indeed increases the happiness you have in your work on the one hand. It creates indeed also the work-life balance. You also have to adjust to it. I think in the Netherlands, due to COVID, there was a very big increase in working hybridly and working remotely. Because before that time, we already did it for about a decade, but it would be only 1 day a week, half a day a week. And afterwards, when we were at home 100%, also our top management noticed that we were still able to work well all from home. But as an employer, you do have to provide the good tools to do that. And that is something that where the digital backbone is of great importance.
To finally add, Marjolein, to your answer, I think the biggest change post and pre-COVID was that pre-COVID teleworking was generally an individual choice, which was allowed by the employer, but due to COVID, we have learned that as an employer, collectively working hybridly gives us a lot of advantages, which we need to support generally instead of just individually.
So we hope this answers your question.
Well, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next question. It's a related question. When you work hybridly, you would talk with your bosses and select how your work style will be. In that context, the bosses would have to think about the balance of their team members. They would have to coordinate each team member's tasks and the amount of the tasks. That would be quite difficult. And also, there are many styles of work within the same team that would be difficult to manage each person's ways of working. What is it like, and how do you manage that?
So in the Netherlands, a central platform is used, which keeps track of the agreements made between the manager and the worker. And this system is used for the personnel evaluation. But besides that, collaboration rooms are used to work in files together, in which every team member has access to. So you can work on files together, but the manager can also keep track of the progress made.
And moreover, it's very important these days in the Netherlands as a team to also have conversations with each other on how everybody wants to work, and also the balance within the team. And the manager has a really important role in that part, but also the team itself. You have to work collectively, and you have to set team boundaries, and sometimes you have to give in your individual preference in order to make the team as a whole function well. And in the Netherlands, we challenge managers to have that conversation within the team and make collective agreements on that. If that's not possible, there is a possibility for a manager to make a point and say, this is how I want to the team to work. But in general, we stimulate and also educate managers in order to be able to have that conversation within the team based on the tasks that are at hand in order to collectively collaborate within the team.
Yeah, it has been a change over the past decade for managers not to manage their personnel or the people working for them basically because they see them in the office, but on the output. And that requires both from the employee and the employer a different way of looking at work. It also requires a great level of trust from my employer that he knows that when I'm at home, I'm actually performing my work, and a trust from me that my employer sees that I'm doing good work, and that I take pride in working for government and making sure that I am actually doing that work. And as Harry also said, there is a system. So every year we have a sit down with our manager. So what are your targets for this coming year? What educational development would you like to make? And then we see what is possible in that respect. And also not only once a year, but basically every week we speak with our entire team to see what everybody is doing, where they are at, where they need support from their team members. And in between, we use our phone quite a lot during the day. And when I'm in the office, for me, it's easy. I'm 20 minutes away from my office, so I can go there for a few hours. I go there for the different reason, as Maureen mentioned. I go there to meet my colleagues. So it's a quick call in the morning. Hey, are you here today? Yes, I am. Okay, well, shall I meet you at 11 o'clock in the morning? Then I stay until 2 o'clock. Then I have to finish a policy brief and I go home, because at home I have a more silent room to finish my work.
And we support those teams with different things. In the leadership programs, especially leadership in a hybrid work environment is more standard at the moment. And also we have facilities in place like canvases, which help teams have that conversation with each other. So they also know what to talk about, and having examples on what types of questions do you have to answer on the hybrid workplace.
Thank you. When you work in a hybrid manner, it's hard to demarcate private and professional life. How is it like? How do you keep your private life from professional life? What kind of initiatives do you have as a government?
Well,
Shall
I think
start,
that. Oh yeah,
shall I
sure.
start answering the question? We have different programs at hand to help employees also set their boundaries, because that's one issue which is very important. It's very easy to work more hours or go to do things with the children, but also a healthy work environment and also staying mentally healthy within the hybrid workplace is very, very important. So we have some general courses or trainings to help employees set their work-life balance. But we absolutely, especially the people who have difficulty setting their own personal boundaries, they need to be helped with training, but also in guidance from their manager or also team members. But maybe, Harry, you can elaborate some more also from your own experience.
Yeah, I think fully separating work and your private life is difficult nowadays because your work life and your private life are so interconnected. Research even shows that setting very strict rules about when and where we are allowed to think about work or deal with personal issues can actually lead to more stress in both areas of our lives. So I think we need to embrace the good things about the flexible working methods, but also be aware that we do turn off the work mode when we are done with work and take time for ourselves. And talking a bit more about the flexible working methods, let's say I need to fully concentrate on my job and writing some piece of document. I like to sit at home or even sit down at a Starbucks because that gives me all the room I need to work concentrated, and I like that. So embrace the good things about the flexible working methods and turn off the work mode when needed.
Yes, and also in legislation, also from the European Commission, we are talking now about the right to disconnect, because you can always be connected with work, and your employer has the possibility to WhatsApp or call you, especially with the mobile phone, always. But that's why the right to disconnect is starting to come into the legislation as well.
And it is indeed something that is translated in Dutch, collective agreements. So we have a collective agreement for the public sector, where it also says that your boss cannot call you after a certain time in the evening, for example. But I think it is indeed, especially having that conversation multiple times, because it is a process. It is not something, it's a culture change. I, as employee, have to be secure enough that my employer knows that I'm working, because sometimes it's indeed the mental pressure in your head that you think, oh, maybe my boss does not think I work hard enough for that because I'm at home. And it is also supported by the digital system. So we have an Outlook system with an agenda. My agenda is open to the rest of government. So I put in my agenda a block working from home, or so my colleagues know what I'm doing at what time. And it is also a great help to find those moments that you can call your colleague because you know they're not in a meeting, for example.
Thank you very much. Even in Japan, we do have flex work and we also have working remotely from home. We do have flexibility, but we do have a lot of overtime and the work process cannot improve as much. And so we're not able to progress that much in really having that flexibility around work. In such a situation, what type of mindset do you think is necessary to really make this something that people can embrace?
Shall I start? It needs a very flexible and patient mindset. That is key. Because as we try to explain, we have been going in this process for more than a decade. In the beginning, we had digital problems a lot. When I would be working at home, my computer would crash. I lose everything I was working on, not a good thing. So then you think I rather am in the office. I am pretty sure that a lot of our managers also in the beginning thought, I have to trust my employee, I know that, but I am not so sure if they are performing their tasks. And along the way, slowly, and again helped by the pandemic, because then we were forced to work 100% from home for a long time, for more than a year. I think you start to build a new way of working. And we have called this hybrid working, working on the one hand in the office, and that is not the same yet for every country. So it's baby steps, it's a patient mindset. Marine, please.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of time, but also I think it starts with the basis of knowing, and research shows that more and moreover, that working long hours is not by definition making better work or more work, because also, like Harry already mentioned, you have to have a moment of balance as a person in order to reduce your stress level or being able to think and have some moment of rest for that. So on top of what you already said, Marilette, it's also the awareness on what production even means and what are the necessary facilities to have that. And that you need to have some rest during the day in order to be productive as well. And indeed, you have to take baby steps. That's also why we set our goal on 2027, especially because we are in an organizational change for a Dutch government with over 130,000 employees. It takes time both to have that cultural change, but also all the facilities in place. So have a wider vision and a goal in the future.
The next question will be the last question. So when we start to work more from home, the education opportunities and supporting opportunities may be reduced, especially for new employees. They may seem as if their development opportunity is compromised. For the new employees, what type of support do you provide so that they don't get lost?
Shall I take this firstly? We are starting to develop our onboarding processes more and moreover. And maybe good to say that not all the problems which are mentioned now weren't there before COVID, because some of them were deepened or more, we are more aware of that, but onboarding is always an important issue. You are correct that in a hybrid work environment where people work more from home, it's more difficult. So we also encourage both teams and managers to be very aware in that onboarding process, to have a buddy system, also make appointments to work at home or work at the office in order to meet people also physically. The educational part is both physical but also online, like Harry already mentioned, through the curriculum from radio, which is very easily accessible through the internet. But also then you have to encourage your employees and the staff to participate in those learnings.
From a personal experience, I started in my position in a different part of the ministry. So all the processes were new. I started there a year ago. All the processes were new for me. The people were new. The topics were new. So indeed, it is a challenge. But that buddy that Marine spoke about helped me a lot. So there is one person who is assigned to you. And that often goes even without the manager saying that person has to guide you, but you can do that in the beginning to facilitate the process. But in my case, one employee said, "Oh, I'll help you." So that was the person who helped me understand the system. I could have a video call if I was working from home. We can share screens and she could explain to me, "Oh, you have to press this button or you have to go to that folder." It is also, we have a very good content system, a portal for government. So for example, if I want to see who is working in my Directorate General, which is over 800 people, I have like a phone book where I can find those people. And because everybody has the mindset that you are open towards new colleagues, I can simply call them because their phone number is in that phone book. I say, "Hey, can we have a coffee break, a coffee moment next week? Because I would like to know what you're doing or learn more about your topic." I think also from managers, they organize regular meetings. So we have not only a virtual, by the way, team meeting every week, but we also have a virtual directorate meeting. And we have regular in-person meetings. So once a month, there is like a session, for example, for my unit.
And three things about the training nowadays. So currently we have more online trainings using e-learnings, but there are still skills that are easier to learn on-site, such as communication skills. We have also learned that shorter learnings are more efficient. So we introduced a method called something like learning snacks in English. I think that's the correct way to translate it. But this is a 5-minute training about a certain topic. And so far, most people like the concept of learning something new in 5 minutes.
And if I would like to learn something like that, I can go to this portal for the
Well, thank you very much. We have received many more questions, but we are running out of time. So allow me to close the Q&A session. We learned that flexible work styles require teamwork, leadership, and communication. And I think with those are the things we could also adopt right away. So this concludes our session. In late March, we plan to invite speakers from the Danish government to give lectures on human resource management using digital technology. We will send an email invitation to you, and we hope you will join us again next time. Finally, we would appreciate your filling out a questionnaire to help us plan our future events. please access the questionnaire by clicking the button at the bottom of the viewing page. See you all at the next session. Thank you.